What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Saturday. Hopefully, you're having a good start to your morning and your weekend. I know I am. You know, it feels good when you never doubt your team and you just have all the belief in the world. I never wavered for one moment, to be honest with you. There was not one moment that I thought this team needs to be blown up, this team needs to be disbanded, Jamal Murray should be banished to Orlando and traded for a better piece. Never. I held fast to my convictions about this team, and Brandon over there, he wanted to walk the plank and be a traitor once again. Slandering Jamal with disrespect
Let me
and
just go to
vitriol, hatred.
at Stephen Priest Jr. Twitter.
You won't find it. I deleted the tweets. glowing remarks. I scrubbed my social media clean. I scrubbed that thing clean like a Netflix serial killer.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember a tweet. It was time to blow up? Question mark. That was maybe 2 weeks ago.
First off, I was talking about the Avalanche. They were struggling. I had some real questions
The
about
Avs
Nathan
weren't
McKinnon.
playing 2 weeks ago.
Not true. Not true. That is true. They didn't play for like 4 weeks. No, I think for us, we were talking last week, and we just joked about this before we hopped on. That we were like last week, like, okay, these final 4 or 5 games, they have to go 2-2 at least. Like 3-1 would be pie in the sky. 2-2 wouldn't be shocked if they go 1-3. And in true Denver Nuggets fashion, when you completely count them out and think they're toast, dead in the water, shark is surrounding them with blood oozing from their body, they pull out a harpoon, shoot the shark in the eye, and bandage themselves up and surf a 50-foot wave back to shore. That is the Denver Nuggets in a nutshell. I don't know how they do it. I don't know why they do it. Well, I know why they do it. They just love to kill their fans and Michael Malone and shorten lifespans. But now you look at this team, like a week ago, it was bleak. They were like 2 games above 500.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're sitting at 21-15, and they're 1 loss behind Portland, 1 loss behind the Clippers, 2 losses behind the Lakers. Now they're 3 wins behind those 2 teams. But now you're right back in the thick of things. Right. And now all of a sudden you have, well, Jokic is still just doing Jokic stuff. I mean, he's got his 50th triple-double. He's the quickest center to do that. And he's got, I saw the stat, he has more triple-doubles than like Wilt, like all these great centers combined. Shaq, like all these great guys, which, I mean, it's not super shocking because when you think of centers, you don't really think of guys that should get triple doubles necessarily. At least I don't.
Right.
But for him to do it, it's just insane. But really, I think the story of this rise for the Nuggets has been Jamal Murray. I mean, how can you say anything bad about Jamal Murray through these past, 11, 12 games? And we'll get to MPJ too, because, oh man, I'm getting some young OKC vibes. I don't know about you, like not maybe to that level, but could there be an organic big 3 brewing? That's I think is a legitimate question that we can now kick around a little bit. But Jamal Murray has been sensational. We've given our fair share of criticism for Jamal, 100%, and it was well warranted, I think. But something clicked. He flipped a switch. And now he's looking like an all-star caliber guard. And that's what we expected him to be.
Yeah. Well, look, if he was doing this all year, not only would they be in the hunt for the first seed, but he'd be an all-star. He would have made the and at the very least he would have been the replacement instead of Mike Conley. Are you kidding me? Conley made it. if the fact
now, Mike Conley's a good guy.
I understand that, but
if
Jamal Murray was playing the way he has been all year long, he would have easily been an all-star. Mm-hmm. Like he would have been ahead of Devin Booker, in my opinion. He would have been ahead of Mike Conley easily, in my opinion. I think he would have been ahead of guys like Paul George. I think he would have been ahead of. I mean, just like to be honest, I was looking at the Western Conference All-Stars. I think the East is catching up in in star level talent, like all-star level talent, but overall the East is terrible if you look at the standings. But it seems like they always have a lot of talent. But they're all, I think, usually on one team, which is the case this year. But yeah, Jamal, I didn't expect. I don't think either of us expected him to do this, and be this consistent. You tweeted out the stat. I think it's the first time in his career he's had 10 straight games of 20 plus points.
Mm-hmm.
He's we go back to 2 weeks ago because it didn't make sense, right? The slow start, the talent that he has, the bubble, it did not make sense. Why he was playing the way he was playing. And I'm going to bring it up again. That little, I don't want to say theory, but just I guess theory of what I came up with was looking at Nikola Jokic and I guess it was last season and the year before that, where it was the first 20 to 30 games, he just didn't want to play. He was inconsistent. He wasn't playing well. He was overweight. And for Jamal, it was more of not being consistent, not seeming to want to play, and just not focused. I think, Jamal needs to be 100% focused in order for him to do what he's doing. I think for guys like Nikola Jokic doesn't necessarily need to be focused because he's that good to where he could just roll out of bed and put up 15, 12 and 12 and be like, all right, well, that's a Nikola Jokic game.
Which is so awesome that we've gotten to that point with him, right? Because before it was like pulling teeth to get this out of him. Now he's just like, let me drop 17 in the first and all. He's literally what I do when I'm trying to get all my badges in NBA career mode when I play it on pro mode. I get all my points first, and then I get my assists and rebounds, and that's what he does. He just rolls out of the bed and, all right, 23, 10, and 9. All right, now everybody else can play.
It's easy for him. And I think for Jamal, he does need that focus, and he didn't have that in the first 2 months of the year, and I think it was pretty obvious why. He said it before the season started. He didn't want to play. I mean, it was way too short of off season for him, and he just didn't want to play. And I think when you're 23 years old, it's the same with Nikola Jokic the last 2 years when he was 23 and then 24, because now he's 25, 26. I think it's that hump that you got to kind of get over when you're that age. Some guys, they get over it at 20, right? Luka, LeBron, Kevin Durant, guys like them, they figure it out instantly, and they were just that good, that talented, to where they could just go and do it. Jokic wasn't, not really. I mean, he was close, but he couldn't just come into the NBA at 19, 20 years old and dominate like Luka, right? Or LeBron. It took him a couple years to realize, oh, he could do that. And then it took him another couple of years to do it every night and start the season off doing it right away and being that MVP type of player, which we'll get to later. So there's a big difference when you look at a 23-year-old Jamal Murray who has all that talent. It's just a matter of him figuring it out and figuring out how to do it in the NBA. I mean, it's one thing to do it in college, in which he didn't even do in college, and then figure out how to do it in the NBA. And I think seeing what Nikola Jokic is doing is helping, and hopefully that accelerates Jamal a little bit more. And obviously all of the experience that Jamal has. I mean, this team, even MPJ at this point, this team has so much more experience than most teams at their age. There's only a few teams you can think of that has that experience that they already have. Mm-hmm. It was the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it was the Golden State Warriors. Those are the only two teams, and I would say the early 2000s Lakers. Those are really the only teams in my mind that I can think of. Well, I guess the San Antonio Spurs too, at least in the early 2000s as well. That young teams that got far early, and now at 24, 25, it's like, oh, they're starting to figure things out, and this could be something that's here for a very long time. Now, for Oklahoma City, that didn't pan out, but that was their fault. For Golden State, it lasted 5 years. Mm-hmm. You know, for a team like San Antonio, it lasted them 20 years. So now at this point, it's okay. If this does start to hit, we know Nikola Jokic is an MVP caliber player. If Jamal Murray keeps this up, and if MPJ starts to figure it out, which looking at his past few games, it seems like he has, then this team, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of how long. How long can this team do this? So obviously this team needs more help. Once you get past MPJ, this team is rough, and they need to get healthy. They need to make some moves at deadline. They're not there yet, but they have the number one guy. Their number two guy is playing like a number two, and their number three is starting to figure it out. And that's all really you need once you get to the playoffs. Then it's a matter of, all right, Will, give me 10. Gary, play great defense. PJ Dozier, do what you've been doing. Monte, be a solid backup point guard, right? Green, hit a couple threes and play solid defense. You don't need those guys to be what you need them to be right now when you enter the playoffs, because in the playoffs, it's going to come down to Jokic averaging 30, 10, and 10. Jamal Murray averaging 25, 5, and 5. Michael Porter averaging 20 and 8. Right? So that's what you want to eventually see these guys get to. And if they can do that, this team can make it to the Western Conference Finals again. They did it last year. Why can't they do it this year? I don't think the Clippers got better. The Lakers didn't get better necessarily. So why can't you get back there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best part too, when you look at this team and the three stars in particular, or guys that could be stars, right? One thing that's very encouraging to me, and we saw Michael Malone talk about this a few times, is that Jokic is Tim Duncan-esque in how he carries himself, not necessarily play style, but he's a guy who doesn't care about the limelight and being the number one. I think it's very encouraging that the Nuggets could have three potential players that can turn and move places up and down the board of, oh, he's one, he's two, he's three. Like, if you ask Nikola, hey, Nikola, would you mind being the third best player on the team? I think he'd be like, no, I prefer that, honestly. Yeah, let's do it. And it's Jamal and it's MPJ. And we talked about that before the season, right? I mean, we've said constantly that if the Nuggets, now this is before, Jokic did this season, but we thought that for the Nuggets to win the championship, it has to be Jamal or MPJ that has to take over that mantle. Well, now with Jokic playing like this every night, I mean, I think the Nuggets could seriously win a championship with him being the best player on the team. But what I'm saying is, like, all these guys are interchangeable now. Like, MPJ, you're starting to see flashes of, like, oh man, the peak is real. Like, his ceiling is, like, exceptionally real, what he could reach. With Jamal, when he plays like this, you're seeing, oh, okay, he could legitimately be an all-star caliber guard that puts up 25 a night. One of the best tough shot makers in the NBA right now. So I think that's just overall something that Nuggets fans should be excited about. Now, obviously, we don't know how this will play out down the road. It's more likely that this team gets broken up than they stay together. Hopefully the Cronkies don't let that happen and they're willing to go into luxury tax. But for right now, we can enjoy what we have. So that's just with the big three in general. Going back to Jamal, I just think you hit everything on the head. I think it was partially about motivation for him. He was obviously pissed off that they had to come back and play this soon. He just didn't look into it. That's why I never bought the injury excuses. Like, I just didn't. Right. I mean, I felt like he just wasn't there. I don't. It never felt like, oh, Jamal's banged up. Like, yeah, he gets banged up. You know, he gets. It seems like once a game he takes a pick where it goes right into his thigh and he's wincing, and it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, and then the hamstring thing the other night, but it just felt like he just wasn't mentally there. And now it just feels like he's locked in, he's engaged. And to me, like, yes, the scoring, the 25, you know, the 50-point games, that's awesome. But to me, what's even more awesome, you know, aside from the consistency, is the efficiency is which in which he's doing these things now. You know, he had 7 of 17, 8 of 19, and that's okay. 7 of 15, just under 50%. 9 of 16, 13 of 25, 21 of 25, 11 of 20, 7 of 18, 12 of 23, 9 of 15,
21 of
8 of 14.
25.
Like, I mean, but he's becoming more efficient though. We're not seeing as much, you know, like Donovan Mitchell threw up the other night, 12 of 34 or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was. You know, we're not seeing the 1 of 9 and all that type of stuff. So hopefully it's a corner that he's turned and now driving past, and it's not a roundabout to where he passed the corner, but he's going to come right back around into that corner. So
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, in January of 2022, we're talking about the same thing. Because it happened with Nikola Jokic. It happened back to back years. So I wouldn't be shocked. But like I said, it what kind of what stood out to me when I brought it up 2 weeks ago was the progressive improvement of those first 5 games where you started to see it. And it was, I don't remember exactly. It wasn't necessarily the points went up, but it was the shooting numbers that went up. The percentages all went up in like 5 straight games. And you really saw it coming. And then it exploded with that 21 of 25. And then since then, it's obviously kind of been, you know, whatever. But it up to that 21 of 25 game, it was each game he got better. And that was something where those first 5 games where I was like, okay, this isn't just him necessarily having a good 5-game run. It's I think he's figuring it out. I think he's actually trying. You know, that was the difference. And so yeah, he can be. I have you brought up the Oklahoma City Thunder. I have the 2011-2012 Oklahoma City Thunder roster up. Their big three when they made it to the NBA Finals. Now this is slightly different because this is insane to me. They made the NBA Finals with this team. Kevin Durant was 23. Russell Westbrook was 23. James Harden was 22. Serge Ibaka was 22. It's just
that's insane.
It's insane. Now, I mean, look at you like the Nuggets. Jokic is 25, about to turn 26. Jamal just turned 24. Porter's what, 21? So 22. So it's not that far off. But obviously it's not to that extent. But Kevin Durant averaged 28, 8, and 3. Jokic is averaging right now 27, 11, and 8.6. Russ averaged 23.6, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. Jamal Murray right now is averaging pretty much 22, 4.6, and 4. And if you look at his last 15, he's what? 25 and 5 and 5. So it's.
I mean, if you look at the last 4 games for these guys, I mean, Jokic is at 28.8, 9.6, 10.3. Jamal's at 24.3, 2.3 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. And MPJ's at 18 points per game and 10.8 rebounds.
And then James Harden's was at 16.8, 4 and 4. Serge Ibaka was at 9 and 7. So they're right there as far as averages. They are right there, and I'm looking at the season total, not just the last 4 games. So if they extend these last 4 games into the rest of the season, they're going to blow past those numbers. So can they the question is, can they look, we know Jokic is going to get better in the playoffs. We know Jamal Murray is going to get better in the playoffs because they've done it the last 2 years. So we should expect that. MPJ, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Last year in the playoffs, he didn't necessarily get better, but he didn't play that much, so it's hard to know. He didn't start. He doesn't have the role that he has now, so that's hard to tell. But we know Jokic and Jamal. I mean, even looking at their numbers now, they're going to somehow get better. Jokic is probably going to elevate it up to 30, 12, and 10, more than likely. Jamal Murray's going to go up to about 25 to 27, 5 and 5. Hopefully Porter gets up to 20. And if they do that, they can, I'm telling you, they can get back to the conference finals, and they will have a shot at the Lakers. And right now, what's interesting about the West is that the LA Lakers are banged up. We don't know how healthy they are going to be in the playoffs. And when it comes down to health in the playoffs, the healthier team makes it more times than not. So if the Lakers aren't healthy, you just went from your window being 2 years from now, waiting on LeBron, to right now.
Mm-hmm.
So and looking at the standings right now, if I'm the Nuggets and if I'm Tim Connolly, I'm thinking, you know what? The window's opening. Because the Lakers aren't healthy. Now they can get healthy. And that's something that obviously you got to think about, but I mean, the Clippers didn't get better. The Lakers didn't necessarily get better. You're 2-1 against Phoenix. Not worried about Utah. So the window's open. Go get guys.
I think I get what you're saying. I think if they play like this, then yes, they do have a good shot against the Lakers. I think it could possibly be a 6-game series, which it probably should have been last season.
That's the thing. If Anthony,
game winner,
right? If you do the right thing defensively, you go to 6 games last year. So if you get better over the trade deadline and your main 3 guys get better, you can do it. Now I'm not until someone actually beats LeBron before the NBA Finals, I'm not going to pick that because it hasn't happened in 10 straight years. He's made the NBA Finals 10 straight years in which he made the playoffs. So, until that doesn't happen, you can't. I mean, you can't pick against that. But I think if things go the way that you want to go with these 3 guys that you have, and you can make the right moves, you can make it really tough.
I think they could, because you have to look at the Lakers, and they're not as big as they were last year.
Mm-mm.
They don't have
Dwight Howard,
the Serbian kryptonite in Dwight Howard. I saw someone tweet that the other day. They're like, honestly, who can guard Jokic one-on-one? And I was like, Dwight Howard, SMH. I don't know why, but it's Dwight Howard.
Well, every player has that one guy.
Yeah. So. But I think the Nuggets would, and it's funny right now because you look at the standings. Who's the 3? The Lakers. Who's the 6? The Nuggets. So
that won't stay the same.
Right.
But
hopefully not, because I think Denver has to. Now the chance to get back into a top 4 seed is very realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the ideal situation. But as far as beating the Lakers, I mean, I think they would have a really good shot, because you have to remember too, I mean, they went to LA and they were up 18, 15, something like that at halftime, against the Lakers. And then the third quarter, I'm not going to blame it all on the refs, but there was a lot of whistles every time down for the Lakers. and a whole lot of non-whistles for the Nuggets on the other side. So, and then they beat them here. Obviously, AD goes out in what, the third quarter, I think it
Yeah.
was, or second quarter.
And we got to remember too, the Nuggets are doing all this the last 10 games, whatever, without your best defender. Actually, two best if you want to throw JaMychal Green in there.
Well, they've only had their full team available for like 5 games, I think.
Yeah,
literally.
So and look, they're gonna make moves. I don't know if they now. Here's the thing though, if they don't make moves, I'm throwing all this out the window. Because if they don't make any moves that actually improves this team, in my opinion, they're not trying to win this year.
See, I think with how they're playing right now, I think that makes it less likely that Tim will make a move.
No, I disagree with that, because you have so many guys out right now that I think Will Barton's got to go. I think there's a 99% chance that Will Barton gets traded at the deadline. I don't think he wants.
But who's going to take Will Barton? What are you going to get for Will Barton?
Well,
Will Barton's at the stage where Gary's at, to where you'd have to give up stuff with him to get something back.
I don't necessarily think so, just because the NBA is weird at the deadline, and certain teams just want to get rid of guys. So if you can find another team that wants to get rid of another guy, kind of like you want to get rid of Will Barton or a Gary Harris, you can find that match. So I look at the Pelicans, who aren't playing well this year. What are they in the standings? They are one of the worst in the West. They're 15-21. They're technically the 9-10. They're technically the 11 seed, but they're way out. They just want to let go of JJ Redick. They just want to let go of Lonzo Ball. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are 14-22. Probably not even in the playoff discussion anymore. They just want to get rid of Andre Drummond. There are certain teams, Detroit just let go of Blake Griffin. Is Blake Griffin, if you let go, is Blake Griffin better than Paul Millsap? Would you rather have Blake Griffin than Paul Millsap?
Yes, I would.
Then that's a move where maybe you give up Paul Millsap for peanuts and you just sign Blake Griffin.
But Blake Griffin is expected to go to the Nets. That's the word on the streets.
Yeah, and that's probably what's going to happen. But what I'm saying though is, there's going to be players available that you can get for guys like Will Barton, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap. But I'm looking at that list of guys, and I'm saying those are the guys that will be traded at the deadline. Will Barton, Paul Millsap, maybe I could see Gary Harris staying. I think JaMychal Green stays. I think PJ Dozier stays. But everyone else could easily get traded, including Zeke Nnaji, which I wouldn't want Zeke Nnaji to be traded because I really like him. But if there's a scenario where, if I told you had to you're going to lose Will, Paul, Gary, Zeke, RJ Hampton, Bol.
Goodness.
And you're also gonna lose Isaiah Hartenstein. So you're gonna trade all of those guys.
7 guys.
Yes, you're gonna trade. Hey, we've seen something like this happen before with Cleveland. I'm just saying, we've seen it happen before. But if I told you, and this isn't just the trade deadline, this can be the offseason too.
I'm surprised you didn't include Facu in there. So you like Facu then, huh? You want to keep Facu?
I mean, I would be more than happy to throw him in there. I just forgot about him because he's forgettable. But if I told you you trade all those guys, but you get JJ Redick, Lonzo Ball, and Andre Drummond, would you take it?
Well, sure, but I just don't think those guys get those guys. It's just like, if you're New Orleans, why would you want any of those guys?
Because you're not trying to win right now, and you're just trying to get rid of guys and bring in expiring contracts and just see what else you can find. If Will Barton, wants to kind of reset his career, he doesn't obviously want to be here. It's pretty obvious watching him on the court. He does not want to be on this team. If he gets reset, goes to New Orleans, and he's their starting 2 guard, and he's put up 15 a game for them, 17 a game, and he's playing well, They'd be more than happy with that. So I just don't think you can look at, oh well, Will Barton's playing like crap with Denver. Well, yeah, because he doesn't want to be here. So I think there's another team that will be willing to take that shot because they may need a 2 guard who can score. And they may be thinking, well, we could probably fix him. And if not, hey, it's not a big deal because we want to get rid of Andre Drummond or we want to get rid of JJ Redick. So we'll take a shot on this guy. If it doesn't work out, we'll just let him go.
I just think it's unlikely that a deal gets made now. And I get what you're saying, but I think they're going to take the stance now of, wow, we're turning things around. We're playing very well. We haven't had our full team available this entire time. Imagine if we got all these guys to play, and where would we be? I think for a team that's been preaching continuity, togetherness for so long, I just think it's unlikely that a move gets made. Now, I'm not opposed. Listen, we've talked about it. I would love Lonzo. I would love a JJ Redick on this team, even though he's shooting a career low or a season low in 3-point percentage.
Still better than everyone else you have.
Right. I think that would be awesome. But again, too, I think a lot of the Nuggets guys are guys that you have to, like, except for, I guess, if New Orleans is really just trying to get expiring deals like, Will and Gary and Paul, then okay. But I just think it's unlikely, but I would love those guys. I don't think that necessarily if they don't make any moves at the deadline means they don't want to win a championship. I just think that just means that they were affirmed of, okay, this team is good. We just need to get healthy and see what we have, type of thing. Which, is it the worst thing? No, but I mean, listen, if the big three, it all revolves around those, well, really the big two, okay? Well, you know what you're going to get from one of those guys. A lot of this weighs on just what are you going to get from Jamal and MPJ. Because if you can get this from them or some version of this from them the rest of the year and into the playoffs, then I think regardless you have a great chance. And maybe you do just stand pat. I don't know. But a lot of it comes down to really Jamal. I think Jamal and MPJ. Yeah. They're really going to go as far as those two can take them. Because Jokic is going to get you there. And he's going to keep you in it. Now it's going to be up to Jamal picking up his weight. And then there's going to be a lot of nights where the two guys are canceling out the other two guys. And now there has to be a third guy. And that's when it's going to come down to MPJ. Because there was a lot of those situations last year against the Lakers where it's like, okay, Jokic is doing his thing. Jamal, even though the stat line doesn't look great, he's still somehow canceling out AD. Okay, now it has to be MPJ that beats out Rondo and Dwight Howard combined, or Rondo and Kuzma. And there was a lot of times where he didn't do that. Now he's looking like he's doing that. And from his comments in post game, now it's looking like he's at a point in his mindset to where, okay, the shot's not falling. Where else can I contribute to this team? And mainly that's rebounds, because if you look at his last 4 games, he's only averaging 0.2 assists, which I just think is hilarious. How do you even average 0.2 assists?
Well, the second he touches his ball, it's going up.
Yeah. And every time he gets it, I'm like, shoot it. And he's like, yes. It's like, it's like what is that guy from Stars? Do it. He just has that in his head. Do it. And he just launches it. Doesn't matter if there's a guy right in his airspace. He just launches it.
Most of the time it goes in. So
yeah. So I don't know. I just think I think a lot rides on those guys. Yeah. Well, how they're gonna play.
If they play the Lakers in the playoffs, it's gonna be because we know, we've seen it last year. We know Jokic and Murray will cancel out LeBron and AD. It will be, I think it will be Dennis Schroeder versus Michael Porter. Who's that third guy? Maybe Kuzma versus Porter. And that's the thing. I think that's the difference. They don't have Dwight Howard or Rondo, but Dennis Schroeder, I think, is a better player. Does he give you that experience? No, obviously. But I think he is a better player, and so that's where I'm like, well, you might need a fourth guy. And that's why I would make a trade, because I don't trust any of the other guys on this team to be that fourth guy. Because my concern is that, yeah, Jokic, Murray, and Porter, they're canceling out 3 of either LeBron. 80 obviously will be in the 2, but then either Kuzma or Schroeder. But I think Kuzma and Schroeder, and we know Kuzma plays great against Denver. So who's your fourth guy to really cancel out Dennis Schroeder? And then it comes down to 5, 6, and 7. And that's what worries me. And that's why I would go out and do anything I can. I would give up the next 4 first-round draft picks. I would, because they're not going to help you. I mean, look, you guys, Ignaji, great. But is Ignaji helping you this year? No. And there's a good chance that you trade him. So, like, is that first-round pick really worth it? So, I think they need a fourth guy. I don't trust Will. Monte can be. I just don't think. I think Monte could be your 5th guy, and that I think would be huge to have him as your 5th guy. But again, I think when it comes down to beating Lakers or even beating the Clippers, I think you need a 4th, because I think what the Clippers and the Lakers did was they went out and made sure that they had a 3rd guy. The Lakers went out and got Dennis Schroeder. The Clippers, they have Ibaka, which that I think Ibaka could mess with Jokic, and that's a concern that I have if they do run into the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would go make a move. I think the number one move though is to go out and get a rim protector. I don't think they can beat the Lakers or the Clippers without someone who can protect the rim. Because at least last year you had Mason Plumlee who could do a little bit of that. You don't have anyone that can do that. I was hoping that Bol could be that guy. It's obviously not happening. So they need a rim protector. I think that's the number one thing that they go out and do.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch what they do at the deadline. I think the deadline is the 23rd or 25th of March. So we've got some time, but they get some much needed rest, you know. They don't play until the 12th, I believe. So, yeah, the 12th against the Grizzlies. So you get the rest naturally going into the All-Star break, and we can talk about this real quick before we get to the MVP discussion. The All-Star teams have now been selected, and I just got to say, I don't know how Team LeBron is going to lose, especially given that, you know, Kevin Durant's not there. But I mean, for LeBron to pick this team, it's like so perfect to me.
Well, he's 4-0 in
right.
This whole thing.
But it's so perfect, his team. Like, the starting lineup is him, Jokic, Steph Curry, Luka, and Giannis. You have 4 ball handlers. I mean, really 5, but 4 ball handlers. 3 of the guys who probably have, you know, the highest IQ in the league. I mean, I'm sure you could probably throw Steph in there too. But, and then you have a monster in Giannis. Like, if this was an actual real team, there's no way you can double anybody. You're not leaving anyone on the court. And then the ball's going to get swung to Giannis. And I pray for whoever has to guard Giannis one-on-one, because he's just going to steamroll you to the basket and dunk on your face. So this is going to be amazing. And then for Team Durant, you have the starting lineup of Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, which is a really good team, but it's so different. Those are all guys who need the ball to do something effective. The LeBron's team are all guys who, yeah, when they have the ball, they can score 40 on your head, but they're also, you know, the highest IQ team, great passing team. I just want to see a couple possessions of a 2-man game between Steph and Nikola. That's all I want to see.
It's funny because when I watch these draft, like the draft, right? It's really fun to watch LeBron pick his team, because I think it tells you who he respects the most in the league. I did not think that Nikola Jokic would be picked. I thought he was going to be one of the last 2 that went to Team Durant. But LeBron loves Jokic. Now, if
He was on his team last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he drafted Jokic last year too. But I would say this, and people might get mad at me, and you might get mad at me for saying this. I would not pick Nikola Jokic in an All-Star draft. I don't think he fits the game. So
I don't think any of the centers fit the game.
I think Embiid will. Just because he can.
Here's why I say it, because it's an up and down game.
Yeah.
That
right.
the shot goes up literally within the first 10 seconds.
Right.
Rarely are you going to see these guys throw it into Embiid and like the only way Jokic and Embiid are going to score is if they hoist threes. That's literally going to be it, or in transition. That's literally it. Like Gobert, absolutely useless in this game, because anytime he runs up the floor, there's already going to be a shot thrown up, and he's just going to have to run back and play defense for 2 seconds. It's literally just going to be wind sprints. It's going to be suicides for Gobert. That's all it's going to be for these big men.
I don't think Gobert's even going to play. I think Team Durant is going to win, and I would pick Team LeBron in an actual game. If this was a serious game, I would pick Team LeBron. I'm taking Team Durant because, number one, I don't think LeBron's going to play very much. He's coming off of an injury. He also said, 2 weeks ago he didn't want to play. So I don't think he's going to play much. Giannis is the one player on LeBron's team and Dame that I can see going 100% the whole game. Other than that, I don't see a single one of his players actually going 100% that whole game. Team Durant, what he did was pick guys who he knew they were going to play, and they were going to play hard. Kawhi, he's going to play. He won MVP last year. Bradley Beal, you know he's going to play hard. Embiid will probably play hard. Kyrie, maybe. I don't know. Kyrie's the one, but he picked Kyrie because he's his teammate, and Kyrie probably be a big baby about it. Jason Tatum, I'm not sure if Tatum will actually play hard. Booker will. James Harden will. Zach LaVine will. Donovan Mitchell sure as hell will. So Zion will. So I think as far as All-Star, I think Team Durant will probably win. I also think they have better shooters. Other than Steph, Team LeBron doesn't have very good shooters. Steph and Dame, he has probably the two best. But other than that, I think Team Durant has a better shooter. So as far as All-Star games, I'm going to go with KD. I will be rooting for Team LeBron, though. One, because Nikola Jokic is on the team, and it's LeBron. So
I just want to see the two-man game between Steph and Jokic, because I think
I want to see the two-man game between LeBron and Jokic. Can we get a three-man game? Look?
Any two games.
You can add. Can we see Giannis and Jokic? Can we see Steph and Jokic? Can you imagine Steph and Jokic? Oh my God!
Luka and Jokic are going to be on the same team. We know how good of friends they are. So, I mean, really, any
they'll be playing for Dallas in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I said, did you see? Speaking of that, did you see? Yeah, hopefully not. Did you see Giannis's reaction when they told him that LeBron's team that he was on?
No, I haven't.
You didn't see that? Oh, the video was posted to Twitter, so it was in one of the post game. Yeah, you'll have to look it up. He's eating chicken wings, okay, mid press conference, and they're telling him, "So yeah, you know you got selected by LeBron." He's like, "Yeah," and they're telling him the team, and they're like, "Yeah, it's you, LeBron, Steph, Luka, and Jokic," and he's like mid bite, and he steps up, and he's like, "Wait, are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, it's over, guys. We're gonna win. We're gonna blow them out." You'll have to watch it. It's a hilarious.
And that's why if this was an actual game, I would easily take Team LeBron because it's a better team, and you know how LeBron thinks, and he's thinking. Now, to be fair, LeBron's 4-0 in this, so to kind of doubt him is kind of stupid on my part. I just don't think he's gonna play hard specifically, and I think that's where they're gonna lose. But. And I also don't think that this game fits Jokic. But you look at his team, I mean, out of the top 10 players in the league, he has most of them on his team. And not only that, but you look at that starting lineup, that starting lineup fits together. There is no issues with, like, chemistry will be, that's easy for that team. You look at KD, that team with chemistry. Yeah, that's gonna be a mess. So if it was an actual game, yeah, I'd take Team LeBron. I just, as far as All Star and how the All Star game usually goes. Now look, if LeBron actually plays and plays hard, then him and Giannis alone could probably beat that Team Durant. So, that's and Steph. Like if Steph is playing hard along with Dame and they're hitting threes like crazy, I would actually agree with Giannis. It's probably over.
Yeah.
But
well, we're not going to see these teams play hard until it's the fourth quarter and there's 2 minutes left, if the game is even close.
I will say this though. Back in it was the first year that we had this, I believe. Was one of the best All-Star games I think we ever got. And it was the final, couple of seconds where Steph was trying to get his shot off, and KD and LeBron were all over him, and it was awesome. He ended up tossing the ball over to I don't know who it was, but they just threw up a shot over the backboard and obviously didn't go in. But if we get it, I'm hoping that we get a game like that because I think this could be a good one. If LeBron plays hard and if the rest of the guys play hard, but I don't know. I think we're gonna get a blowout.
It's gonna be fun to watch, and that starting five for Team LeBron is no joke. That's literally a dream team type of scenario of guys that are unselfish, guys who can score at will at any point in the game. Rudy Gobert's on Team LeBron. I thought he was on the other team.
No, that was hilarious at that. Well, he was. So there was 3 guys left. It was Gobert, Sabonis, and Donovan Mitchell.
I need size.
And LeBron is like, I need size. I need a big man. So I'm gonna go. And I was like, okay, this could go Gobert. I'm gonna go Sabonis.
The blatant disrespect of the Utah Jazz. I saw a meme last night. And
I love it because I hate Utah, so I think it's hilarious.
It was from the Avengers last night, and I don't know if you saw it, but it's the scene in the last Avengers where it's Thanos fighting what's her name from WandaVision?
Yeah, Wanda.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Wanda. But yeah, he's fighting her, and she's like, "You took everything from me," and he's like, "I don't even know who you are." And it's like the quote was NBA fans to the Utah Jazz because they feel disrespected. The outright just disrespect towards the Jazz has just been kind of mind-blowing to me. Like they're the number 1 seed and they have the most wins in the NBA and they're playing really well. And LeBron is just like, it was just one of those moments where he was like, yeah, we see what you're doing, but let's be real. Come playoff time, you're gonna get bounced, and that's it. Which I think is hilarious because I've said it before. This Utah team, it reminds me of the Nuggets teams that we've grown accustomed to. Super deep, playing really well. They move the ball.
It's the Melo Nuggets.
Great. It's predictable.
To me, it's the Melo Nuggets team. I think that's what it looks like. I think Donovan Mitchell looks like a smaller, lesser version of a Melo. Rudy Gobert is like Marcus Camby, slightly better. That team is all 2007, 2008 Denver Nuggets. And so yeah, they'll get bounced in the first, second round. I'd be surprised. It depends on who they play in the first round. If they somehow hold on to the 1 seed, I could see them beating who's the 8 seed right now? Dallas. Well, no, they won't beat Dallas. I could see them beating San Antonio, maybe.
I think they'll get to the second round, regardless of who they play. I think they'll get to the second round, and then once they have to,
I'm not sure they beat Dallas though. If they have to play Dallas, I don't think they beat Dallas.
It's probably a close series, but I'd give them the edge because I don't know what I'm gonna get from Kristaps. I really don't.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious because obviously we know a podcast in Phoenix. I wish we knew a podcast in Utah. I would love to talk to them about the Utah Jazz and hear what they think about all of this disrespect. I hate Utah. I hate the state. I think Salt Lake City is trash. So I hate the Jazz and any player that plays for the Jazz. So, I think it's fun and
Took an aggressive
hilarious.
turn. I'd be lying to you if yesterday, if I didn't tell you that yesterday on my lunch break, I actively searched on YouTube jazz podcasts so I could just see like a reaction video to this, just to see a meltdown of some sort. I didn't find anything.
I mean, to be
I
honest,
definitely did.
I fully expect Utah, you know, radio or podcast or whatever to fully understand why this is happening, and they get it. Because I don't know how you can't. You know, other than, you know, the Bronco type of fans where they actually think that Utah could make it to the Western Conference Finals. You know, I think realistic fans understand that the Jazz at 27-9, it's a fluke.
I don't know if it's so much a fluke because they're not good. They're a good basketball team. It's just I just think it's a fluke because of like season, how it is, they're clicking. Now I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're a bad basketball team. I think they're a really good basketball
Yeah,
team.
they're a good team.
Bogdanovich is, man, if the Nuggets were able to get him a couple years ago, that would have been an amazing pickup. He's really good in what they do. I think Royce O'Neal is just having one of those career years, which this is probably going to be the best year of his career. And then outside of that, he'll probably never meet the shooting percentage that he's at for this year. Like everybody's playing their best ball at the greatest time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the worst time, actually, because you actually want to be playing your best ball going into the playoffs. And they're doing it really early in the year. We'll see if they can sustain it. But I just think it just doesn't feel like, I don't think anybody outside of Utah is like, yeah, that feels real. And given that we're Nuggets fans and we've been here before, it's like, yeah, that doesn't feel real. It doesn't mean that they won't win in the playoffs. I do think they'll win a playoff series. But again, once they have to go
blew it last year.
Right. Well, but they didn't have Bogdanovich, and they weren't fully healthy, and neither were the Nuggets. But I think once they have to go up against Lakers, Clippers, because they'll get one of those teams, they're not going to beat that team.
Yeah, and I think, look, we're talking about the Nuggets of they need a third guy, they need a fourth guy, to beat the Lakers, Clippers. The Jazz don't have a second guy. So that's a problem. Donovan Mitchell should be your second guy, in my opinion. Like they don't have they have a lot of depth. It's the same thing over and over. They have a lot of depth. They're built for the regular season. They have great home court advantage. Blah 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 blah. We've seen it here in Denver plenty of times. It's not going to work in the playoffs.
It's gonna be.
It comes down to your top 5 guys, whether they're starting or not. It comes down to your top 5 guys.
Yeah, and I just don't know if the Utah Jazz's 2-3 best players can outdo what the Lakers and Clippers can bring every night.
Or the Nuggets.
Because those teams are going to get up for the Utah Jazz. It's going to be one of those situations where they're going to be like, okay, we want a little brother you. And especially if the Clippers get them, the Clippers aren't going to be like, no, we're not letting what happened last year happen again. I think a dream scenario for the Clippers would be to get to the Nuggets in the playoffs. I really do. Even though they kind of beat them up in the regular season in that one game. I think if the Clippers got the Nuggets, they would be licking their chops a little bit because they'd want to prove it. Even though, that team is kind of different with the, coach and all that. But still, I just think anybody that gets the Jazz, they're going to want to make a point like, you're still the Jazz. Like, for LeBron to be like, no disrespect, but all disrespect. Did anyone actually play with the Jazz in any video game? And I was like, goodness gracious. I almost felt bad. I was like, what is this? Why do we hate these guys?
My jaw dropped, and then I cheered and laughed.
It was just rough. I was like, man, we were just rolling over the 16, 18-wheeler over the Utah Jazz today. I was like, all right, well, I'm here for it. But, goodness, that seemed aggressive. But it's going to be fun to watch. The All-Star game is, this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, so they're not.
All-Star Saturday night is tonight, too. Or wait, or is that happening I think maybe everything's happening tomorrow. I think the dunk contest is at halftime of the All-Star game. I don't know. I really don't care. Usually I like All-Star Saturday night, I like the 3-point shootout. The 3-point shootout's always fun, but this year I think it's gonna be pretty rough.
Yeah, let's see. So the 70th All-Star game, which will take place on one night.
By the way, they are still keeping the rules from last year, which I do like those rules.
Okay.
The Kobe rules,
Yeah.
where it's man, I can't remember them, but I think it's first team to get to 24, I think, in each quarter until the fourth, I want to say, and then the fourth is timed.
Something like that. Yeah. I'm trying to see if they have the rules on here anywhere. I don't see it anywhere, but yeah, it's all gonna happen in one night tomorrow. They're gonna have the Taco Bell Skills Challenge. It's all gonna begin at 5 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m.
Wow.
It's gonna be until the game's done. It's gonna be wild. Okay, so that should be fun. And then lastly, before we wrap today, I'm trying to think: is there anything relevant that happened in Bronco Land? I don't think so. Anyways, okay.
Did you see? By the way, did you see? I want to get your take on it. You're probably gonna hate it, so that's why I want to get your take on it.
What am I gonna hate?
So someone tweeted out. I mean, I don't think you've looked at any like of the NFL draft guys yet. This year, but it was Andrew Mason who tweeted out, but this has been going on around the whole league. Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida, he's 6'6". He's like if LeBron played if LeBron actually went to the NFL and played tight end.
Right, a lot of people are like highly touting this guy.
Yeah. And the problem is he's a tight end, right? And it's like, oh, he's a tight end. Like you can find tight ends in the third round, which I agree with. But if, like in my mind, right, and I think in yours, Trevor Lawrence is as close to a Hall of Fame quarterback at the time of the draft as you can get, like an Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, right? His projection is Hall of Fame, and the chances of that actually happening is actually pretty likely. I think Kyle Pitts is more likely to make the Hall of Fame than Trevor Lawrence, or just as likely, because of his position at tight end and his talent at that position. So if you can get just as that close of a guarantee to a Hall of Fame type of player, you take him no matter what you have. Right, you take
going so far.
You take best available
to undercut Trevor Lawrence. It is insane.
No, I'm not saying that, because I'm saying that Trevor Lawrence is as close to as far as quarterbacks go. He is very likely, like the percentage of him making it to the Hall of Fame is more likely than say Joe Burrow last year coming out of the draft, the year before that, whoever that was, Baker, blah 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 blah. Right. Well, Kyle Pitts, I'm not saying Kyle Pitts is a better football player than Trevor Lawrence.
Sounds like it.
But what I'm saying, at his position, at the tight end position, he has a very high chance of being a Hall of Fame type of player at that position. So if he's there, now I don't think he's going to be there at 9, but if he's there at 9, I get it, you need a corner. I get it, you need a linebacker. But do we really think that Caleb Farley has Hall of Fame potential? I think Caleb Farley can be a really good corner in the league.
It's kind of hard to predict in the first place, though, isn't
it?
Like
I get it, but the
potential for guys that never even played.
Right, I get it, but the talent level of Kyle Pitts is so high and so much higher than any other tight end that has come through, that it's like, well, if he's there, I think you have to take him. You have to go best player available in that scenario if he's there. I don't think he's going to be there at 9, but I tweeted out last night, I said, if he's there at 9, I think you have to take him. And unless I said, if you can't get one of the top 4 quarterbacks, Because I think if you need a quarterback, I think that need is higher than any talent that's available, right? Because quarterback is so that determines how far you go into the playoffs and whatever. But if Trevor Lawrence, which he's gonna be gone, Zach Wilson, he's gonna be gone. If Justin Fields or Trey Lance, if they're all four of them are gone at 9 and you don't trade up, but Kyle Pitts is there, I think you have to take him instead of, because if you take Caleb Farley instead of Kyle Pitts and Kyle Pitts ends up, and I get it, you have Noah Fant, blah blah blah, blah and he's a tight end, but if you take Caleb Farley instead of Kyle Pitts, I don't think that's gonna go well. In 5 years from now, you're gonna be looking back like, man, well, Kyle Pitts is the best tight end in the league by far. He's 6'6". He plays like a receiver. He's getting 100 catch seasons, 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's having those type of years, and he's on pace of being the best tight end of all time. And you look at Caleb Farley, he's like, yeah, you made a Pro Bowl. But he was our team need at the time, so that's why we took him. Look, Kyle Pitts could fall on his ass and whatever. There's a chance of that happening, but I think you have to take. And look, we've seen teams go with 2 tight end sets, and you can put Kyle Pitts in the slot, or you can put him on the outside. He's a receiver at tight end, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. And if you're going to roll with Drew Lock, and if that's the situation, then why not give him more weapons?
I mean, I get what you're saying. I'm not going to say it would be a wasted pick, but if you can get top talent at another position that just happens to be a position at need, that's where I'd lean. But I'm just saying. I mean, I guess it's not. But
it's not pick, it's not like Caleb. The things I'm hearing about Caleb Farley and Patrick, it's not like what we heard of like Patrick Peterson when he came out, right? Or, was Jalen Ramsey the other one? It's not like, yeah, they're all right. They're good corners. That's what you're hearing.
Draft one of those guys and they turn out to be like a lockdown corner.
I hope so. Because at pick 9 and you take one of those guys, that's what you should expect.
Right. All right.
But if they're not those guys, and every scout's saying that they're not those guys, but they're really good corners, then what are you doing? And Kyle Pitts is there. I don't think Kyle Pitts is there because I think someone ahead of Denver is thinking probably the way I'm thinking, and they're going to take Kyle Pitts. Now, I wouldn't take Kyle Pitts ahead of either of the 4 quarterbacks. So if a team takes Kyle Pitts, now unless you're Cincinnati, and obviously they need a tackle, and they should go tackle. But if Cincinnati were to take Kyle Pitts, I wouldn't.
I'd probably take Pitts over. I wouldn't take him over most of the quarterbacks. Probably Zach Wilson is probably who I'd take him over. I mean, if I had the choice, I think that'd be an easy.
By the way, there is more and more people saying Zach Wilson's the best quarterback.
He's the hot flavor. We see this every year. There's a quarterback that shoots up the boards. Not surprising. He's gonna be a poor man's Drew Lock, and Trevor Lawrence.
Poor man's Drew Lock. That actually might be the most disrespectful thing you've ever said.
I have nothing against Zach Wilson. I need to stop because he's gonna come into the league, and I'm gonna hope that he fails just to spite you. So I just need to stop. All right. Interesting segue of NFL talk there. I want to get to the MVP discussion before we close because I think my answer would shock you of who I would choose. So obviously there's a lot of players that are up for it, but really I think there's only maybe because who's in the conversation?
I'm looking at it. I'm trying to find like a good
Jokic.
Okay, so I'm looking at Basketball Reference.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow, I think This is gonna surprise you. Well, maybe not if the way you're thinking. Who do you think Basketball Reference is picking at number one? I'll say this: they have the probability of the players in order,
Yeah.
and that's what they're going off of. Um, Number one is at 46% chance. Number two is 16, and number three is 15. Who do you think those three players are?
I would think Embiid is probably 1. LeBron 2, Jokic 3.
Okay. LeBron is 6 at 3.2%. Joel Embiid is 3 at 15.3%. James Harden is at 2.
That's another one, yeah.
16%. Nikola Jokic is at number 1 at 46% chance.
That makes sense because I think I saw them tweet something out like that a couple weeks ago that he was number 1 on their.
That's shocking to me.
On their list. I wouldn't put him number 1 just because. I mean, well, now it's hard because now the Nuggets are.
I was just gonna say.
Now
because the one thing that was lowering Jokic was the record.
That was it. That was literally it. And not relevant again, but like you know what I mean. Like they're starting to get back up into being one of those top teams in their conference. I think if you asked me a week ago, I would have said Embiid. I think if you asked me today, I'd still say Embiid because I mean they're first in the Eastern Conference, and like as much as I like kind of poke fun at Embiid on Twitter, like he's like a really good player. Like he's dominating this year. Like he and Jokic's numbers, and I'll pull it up.
But yeah, I have it here. I mean, Embiid is averaging 30.2 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.2 steals, 1.4 blocks, shooting 52% from the field, 41% from 3. But Nikola Jokic is averaging 27, 11, 8.6, more steals than Joel Embiid at 1.6.
Dude, Jokic is leading the league in total steals.
Yeah.
I saw someone tweet that.
His field goal percentage is at 56, which is higher than Joel Embiid. And his three-point percentage, everyone's talking about Joel Embiid's three-point percentage. Nikola Jokic is at 418. Joel Embiid is at 416. And by the way, Jokic takes more threes.
And that's where I think when the comparisons come, I think, and I say this all the time, I think Embiid is the more physically like gifted player. Mm-hmm. Obviously, yeah, he's the better athlete. He's obviously.
Well, I think 99.9% of players are the better athlete over Jokic.
Right, and I'm not going to say that he's head and shoulders above Jokic defensively, but I think there's a good amount of space between them. But we've talked about it before. Jokic isn't a bad defender. Mm-hmm. Jokic is a very sneaky defender, a good defender. It's just his athleticism and willingness at times to protect the rim. I mean, he lets guys just get to the rim.
Can't jump.
Well, right. Well, now he can. I mean, now he's dunking on everyone. And I told you he was going to dunk on somebody this year. I told you. Middleton didn't want any of that. I don't know who he even dunked on in Chicago. I don't even know that guy's name. But when I do figure out that guy's name, I will change it in my mind to the guy that Jokic dunked on. That's who he will be forever known as. Who was it before? Bagley? When Jokic did the reverse dunk? You're now not known as, or was it Bagley or was it Rashawn Holmes? One of the two. You're now no longer known as the guy that Jokic dunked on. Because now that he actually dunked on someone, I can say that was kind of not a real dunk on. But at the time, I had to really pump it up because he was trying to bring me down. But I had to pump it up. I had to die on that hill. So now I can say he actually dunked on somebody. And Middleton made a business decision. I want you to know that. He saw that Serbian frickin' warrior coming straight at him at 3.2 miles an hour. Now, it took 25 minutes for Jokic to get to the rim. But once he got there, it was like a slow motion masterpiece, mainly because it takes him that long to get in the air and get to the destination. But he was like, nope. Not getting dunked on in that and being on every poster in Serbia. Not going to happen for me. So I think, obviously, to get back to the point, Embiid is obviously physically more gifted, better defender than Jokic. But I think Jokic can dominate the game in more ways and in more of an impactful way than Embiid. Now, I think Embiid has like the talent to be a Hall of Famer one day. But I think Jokic has transcended his position a little bit. I think we can start talking about Jokic being one of those players that changed his position because he's truly a point center, a guy that can bring the ball up the court, play make, has the IQ and playmaking ability of a guard, can shoot, can get to the back. He's Euro stepping. The other night he Euro stepped and reversed Englished the ball into the hoop. I said, what center? I mean, Embiid does that type of stuff too, but I was like, how many centers do you see doing that type of stuff? So I would still take Jokic. That's just me. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's just hard to deny him. But at this point, I still think I would give the MVP to Embiid. But I think part of that too is he has a better overall team than Jokic does. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
like,
I
think his team is like overall, it's just a better team. Tobias Harris is really good. Now, obviously, with Jamal and MPJ lifting their boats in level of play, that evens things out a little bit. But Ben Simmons, even though he can't step out past 3 feet to score, he's like an all NBA defensive guy, and he's a great playmaker and passer as well. And obviously, he's like 6'8", 6'9" as a point guard. Tobias Harris, really good scorer. That Maxey guy, I mean, we saw him drop 40 on the Nuggets. Danny Green, who can we have this conversation really quickly? Is Danny Green the worst 3-point specialist of all time? I swear,
I don't watch
never
Danny Green enough, but he might be.
It's funny because if you follow Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob on Twitter, every now and then he'll tweet out the screenshot of what is trending on Twitter. And Danny Green, I think, trends at least once a week. And it's mainly because he's missing so many threes. I've never seen a guy that is only known for one thing be so bad at that one thing. Like, he was really good at it in his San Antonio days, but man, he misses a lot of threes. And I'm like, dude, that's all you do. And I don't know. It just, I feel bad because I'm like bagging on the guy, but I think he's the worst, best 3-point specialist ever, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry I got off track. To round out my argument, because I went so many different areas, I would still give it to Embiid, but slightly. That's just me.
And you're giving it to him, why?
Because, like I said, that his team has the best record in the East. I think a lot of their success is predicated on how he's playing right now. And also, they have the second best record in the NBA.
Okay.
So, well, I guess they're tied, right? They're tied right now with the second best record.
Now, look.
Phoenix has one less loss.
So. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, even a week ago, I would say I understand the record is a big deal. Now here's the thing though with MVP, and I get there's a stat out there. I think Russell Westbrook's like the only one of very few players who's won the MVP, not being a top 4 seed in their conference. It's a weird thing with most valuable player and team success, because it seems like team success matters a little bit too much in the MVP discussion. Because I mean, obviously, in my opinion, I think it should be LeBron James every year. But there's a big difference between best player in the world.
Well, yeah, most talented versus most valuable.
Right.
And they should just have an award for that as well. Just make the players and coaches vote on that. Don't make it a fan vote, because
right.
Yeah, that would just
be fair. I think LeBron would win it anyways.
Well, I think he would too.
But yeah, I'll say this. A week ago, I understood that argument. It should be Nikola Jokic right now, and this is why. Number one, his numbers are just as good as Embiid's, if not better, slightly.
It's literally LeBron-esque.
Yeah,
it's a little bit better than LeBron too.
Yeah, I mean, it's
27, 8-8 guy.
Well, Russell Westbrook won MVP with similar numbers, but Nikola Jokic is shooting way better. So here's the thing: Embiid wins in points. He's averaging 3.1 points per game more, right? Well, Jokic wins in assists. He's averaging 5.3 more assists. Embiid averages 0.6 more rebounds. Okay, well, that I would say that's a push. everyone's talking about Embiid shooting. Nikola Jokic is shooting better from the field, and pretty much the same, basically the same from three. Slightly better, like ultra slightly, like whatever. Jokic plays more minutes per game. I don't know if that hurts him or helps him, but he's having to play more minutes because his team has been so bad lately. He's played 6 more games, and the Denver Nuggets record, they are only 3 games behind Philly, record-wise. I don't think that's a big deal. So the record, to me, doesn't matter. I get it, they're first in the East, but the 9th seed in the West would be the 4th seed in the East. So that tells you a lot. The 76ers have a way easier schedule. The 9th seed in the West is the 4th seed in the East.
Yeah, the East is. I still don't know why we're not to the point in the NBA where we're not just doing 1 through 16.
So
I don't get it.
Yeah, so everyone's argument for Embiid, I'm like, it's record and his shooting percentages.
Yeah.
To me, I think you said it earlier. I think Nikola Jokic does more for his team than Joel Embiid. Now, look, Embiid is amazing. He's incredible. He's easily it's 1A, 1B, and then there's 5, 6, 7 as the rest of the centers. There's not even a 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Vucevic is pretty good.
There's 1A, 1B, and then 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, 7. No one's even close.
Vucevic is pretty good.
Sure,
he's
good.
He's not on their level, but
no, not even close.
Karl Anthony Towns,
not even close.
He's really good.
He's really good. Not even close right now.
Yeah.
These two guys are playing unbelievable. And so I think it's 1 Jokic, 2 Embiid. And it should be 50-50 in my opinion. 51-49.
They did co-MVPs and they gave it to both of them.
I would fully agree because both of these guys are insane. I just think the arguments for Embiid over Jokic is a little silly. And I think it's hard. I think for a lot of people, it's very difficult to think that Nikola Jokic is gonna win MVP because the dude can't jump over a piece of paper. He's the most awkward basketball player I think of all time.
Easily. That's why I love
him. But again, the dude's averaging 8.6 assists, 3.2 turnovers, and people are gonna oh, he's averaging 3.2 turnovers. Embiid is averaging 3.2 turnovers. He has 3.3 assists. So he's nearly averaging more turnovers than assists. So
Jokic makes the game look easy.
Yeah, all of the arguments for Embiid against Nikola Jokic are absolutely ridiculous. And now that the record is much closer than it was a week ago,
Philly fans are sweating.
It's very different. It's very different scenario. Because look, if the Nuggets were a 7-8 seed, yeah, I get it. I do. I get that because you got one and when Russ won it and they were, I believe, an 8 seed, he won. Russ averaged a triple-double, and it was the first time since Oscar. So it was a big deal. And I don't think there was another player that was even close to him at that point, averaging similar numbers and whatever. So he was alone in his class. I think it's different this year because Jokic and Embiid are so close. So record is basically the tiebreaker in that scenario. And with Embiid, when it was, not even record, I would say seeding in your conference, not necessarily record, especially in the West and versus the East. So if the Nuggets are a 7-8 seed and Philly's the 1 seed, okay, I get it. But if the Nuggets are a 5 seed or a 4 seed in the West, I think Jokic wins it.
Yeah, in a tougher conference. I just wish we could just have like a mic'd up of opposing players when they have to guard Jokic, or if they could just like ask players how they feel about the 6'10", obese kid, um, who just comes in and is so weird, so gangly, just awkward movement, very flaily, and he just dominates them. Like I just wish I just want to get in the mind. Like, what? How does that make you feel? Because it just has to kill some of these superior athletes, like guys like Miles Turner and Gobert, who, by the way, I mean, I love my tweet the other night where it was like Embiid dominating Gobert, Jokic dominating Gobert, and it was the shaking hands emoji. I just wish I could just hear, and that would be a really cool thing too, to just interview players around, like centers around the league that have to guard these two guys, and just to see what makes them so difficult to guard. Who do they think is better? Like that would be really cool to hear.
Yeah.
But
And look, there's also another. I don't like these arguments because we've never used them in the past. So why are we using them for Nikola Jokic? But the win shares, the graphs that everyone posts on Twitter, the PER. Well, we've used PER plenty of times. But Jokic leads in all of those categories. And when you show that the stupid little graph, he's the only one up in the top right corner. And it's no one's even close. So there's
I just
another
think it also
argument
comes
for
down to
Jokic.
nobody wants to give Jokic the MVP because he doesn't look like your typical NBA player. Like he's not the part. He's not a super athlete. He's not Steph to where he can shoot from 50. He just plays the game the right way and he dominates. And nobody, like, he just doesn't look,
Yeah.
he's not athletically like Giannis. He's not flashy like Steph. He's not, a physical force like LeBron, or he's not ultra aggressive like Russell Westbrook. He's just like, meh. He's like if a ladybug was an NBA player, that's Jokic. He's just calming, relaxing, majestic, and that's it.
I mean, think about this. He leads his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals. Probably field goal percentage, probably 3-point percentage. No, I think MPJ might lead in 3-point percentage. But yeah, look, Jokic is first in win shares. Second is Embiid. Box, here's a big one. Box plus minus. Jokic is first at 11.6. Embiid is 8.5. He's second. That's a big gap. Offensive box, so that was total. Offensive box plus minus, Jokic is first at 9.1. Second is 7.8 with Dame. And Embiid is fourth at 6.9. Jokic, you want to talk about defense? Defensive box plus minus, Jokic is fourth at 2.5. Versus New Orleans Noel. I don't know how much this shows anything. Embiid, though, is 16th. So, all of the advanced, all of the advanced numbers and stuff.
Geeks.
Jokic is first in literally everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Total win shares. Defensive win shares, he's sixth. Joel Embiid is, they're tied at 1.9. Defensive win shares. That's crazy. Offensive win shares, Jokic is 6.5. Second is Dame at 5.1. Joel Embiid is 3.9. Total win shares, Jokic 8.3. Second is Joel Embiid at 5.8, who's tied with Giannis. He's, out of all of these advanced numbers, he's first in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other two out of the 8, he's first in 6 of the 8. The other two, he's fourth, which he's tied for fourth, and tied for fifth. So he's top 5 in the other two.
So next week's episode title will be, is Nikola Jokic actually the best player in the NBA?
Well, no. But, going towards the advanced numbers, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of them.
Player efficiency rating, he's first. True shooting percentage, he's 9th. Effective field goal percentage, he's 13th. This one was interesting. He's 13th, but Michael Porter is 12th. Steals per game. He leads the league in steals total wise. He's sixth
That's
in
so insane.
he's sixth in average. Tied for he's tied for fourth at 1.6. Van Vliet's 1.7. Drew Holiday's 1.8. TJ McConnell's 2.0. Assists per game, he's seventh at 8.6. By the way, he's a center. Rebounds per game, he's 11th. At 11, there's a whole bunch of guys averaging 11.
Well, and he was leading in assists for a good chunk of the season there too.
Yep. And then points per game, he's 8th. So he's in the top 10 in points, 11th in rebounds, 7th in assists, 6th in steals.
I can't wait for our podcast episode in 20 years where the title's going to be, is Nikola Jokic actually better than Michael Jordan? And here's why. So when Nikola Jokic wins 8 finals MVPs and 8 NBA championships. But I think too, in all seriousness, it's crazy because now you're starting to see there's a lot of comps that float around with Jokic. One of them is Larry Bird. I see that one a lot. The Sabonis because of passing. But I think he's a mixture of, obviously we didn't get to watch Bird play, but I mean, I've seen highlights of Bird. But I think Bird, I don't think I've seen a guy with as good a touch as Jokic since like Dirk. And Dirk really didn't take it to the basket a lot. It was just his shot. Jokic has such great touch. It seems like every Jokic shot is that shot where it just splashes the net and it comes up and it's like every single time his touch. And then I think another underrated part that people never talk about too really, his availability. He's only, I think, missed one game.
He hasn't missed a game this year.
Well, not only
and
that,
the game that he missed, I think he got suspended.
It was a suspension. Now, part of it too is like he's not athletic, so he doesn't put himself in compromising positions to where he can get hurt. Sure. So, but availability is a thing, though. And another thing,
Embiid's already missed 6 games this year, or something like that. So it's a big deal.
And another thing too is just how clutch he actually is. Like people always forget that too. Like when you think Jokic, you think you can go on YouTube and there's like a 2 or 3 minute compilation of just clutch shots that he makes, which is just insane to me. And then not only that, I mean, we talk about it as well. Come playoff time, he raises his level. He dominates in the regular season, but then he raises it to another level in the regular season. So, and it's
here's another thing that blows my mind. And I saw this in the last game. They were putting up his numbers, and it made me realize, it made me notice it. There's one guy I believe in the league, or maybe 2, that's averaging 50, 40, 90. And that's a big deal. When you talk about a guy who can average 50, 40, 90, 50% from the field, 40% from 3, 90% from 3, or from the free throw line from 3. I think Steph is one.
Steph is that good.
Bradley Beal might be. Let me double check. Bradley Beal is averaging. No, he's 48. Where's his 3-point percentage? 48 from the field, 33 from 3. So no. So I think it's one. I think one guy in the league right now. I might be missing one. I don't think Dame is. Chris Paul might be. No, he's not. So yeah, he's not. So I think there's only one guy that's averaging 50, 40, 90. And it's Steph. The next closest, honestly, after looking at all those guys, is Nikola Jokic. He's averaging 56, 41, 88. He's nearly averaging a 50, 40, 90. At the center position, by the way, averaging 8.6 assists per game.
Mm-hmm.
So
and he's not just a center that just is back to the basket the entire time.
Right. I don't know. And with the record now, I don't know how it's not Nikola Jokic at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you make a great case. I mean, I can't listen. If they gave it to him, obviously, I'd be fine with it. I'd break down and cry. I'd find a way to be there in person. I'd be like that crazy chick that showed up at Zach LaVine's house demanding to talk with him. I just wish me and Nikola could be best friends.
Could you imagine that MVP speech with Nikola Jokic?
I would.
Oh my God, that would be the greatest thing of
That's
That would be the
part of me
funniest.
just wants it for that. One, he'd probably break the microphone to start. And I just don't. I saw Ryan Blackburn tweeted out the other night. It was during a Jokic presser after the game, and somebody asked him a question, and he was like, "I'm so sorry, I was not even paying attention to your question." And I'm just like, this guy is just amazing. Yes, a Jokic press conference for MVP would be hilarious. He would probably pick up the MVP trophy and drop it or something. And like he'd probably like tape the head
No,
on.
you know what he'd probably do? He'd probably be like, "Who wants it? You guys
Right.
want? Who wants it? I don't need it."
But that speaks to who he is as a star player. Like the
Yeah.
Nuggets really got lucky getting him.
Right.
Because he's one of the rare stars where he really doesn't care if he's the leading man.
Mhm.
He really doesn't. But he's just like, okay, I guess I'll just do it because I have to. And like that's just how good he is. Like he just fumbles into triple doubles. And they mentioned, I don't know if
Literally.
you heard this on the stat the other night. He has 20 near miss triple doubles where he was like one assist or rebound shy, and most of those are assists, which angers me. But oh, God.
Yeah, if he had better shooters around, like imagine if the Nuggets actually had shoot. They don't have. Can you name? There's not a single shooter on their
No.
team. Well, you can MPJ. MPJ is really the only. You can kind of classify MPJ
shooter?
as
No.
a shooter, but other than
Jamal and MPJ are the closest.
that, right? But they're not even. You can't classify them as shooters. Imagine
just
if he had
scorers.
JJ Redick, or you know what, Danny Green sure as hell wouldn't be the best 3-point shooter of all time. If he had if he had better shooters around him, he'd be averaging 12 assists right now.
Yeah. He would have, like they were saying on the Nuggets broadcast, I think it was Chris Marlowe. He's like, I don't think he's gonna catch Oscar because Oscar's got like 190. And I was like, well, if he had 20 more, he'd be at 70 right now, and he's only in year 6. So
yeah, and think about this too. And we talk about, when Jokic gets to 30, 32, 34, whatever, he's gonna be the same player.
Yes,
his regression won't
to
be
like his late 30s, like Dirk did.
Right.
I really do.
So can he get to? Yeah, he could probably get to Oscar. Because if you think about it, his points may go down, his rebounds might actually go down, but he's gonna get a lot of triple doubles. I think his assist numbers really might only just go up.
Yeah.
So he's a once in a lifetime type of talent, and we are very fortunate that he plays for the Denver Nuggets.
Mm-hmm. And just remember, he was drafted in the 2nd round during a Taco Bell commercial. That's if there's one thing that encapsulates.
I remember that because I remember I was waiting for the pick, and then I look at the bottom of the screen. It says Denver Nuggets like Nikola Jokic. I was like, another freaking European. Great, there we go again.
That's our reaction. Great, another guy whose name I can't pronounce, who we'll never see.
And in that same draft, they grabbed Nurkic. So I'm like, dude, we don't need more of these guys.
Yep, and now it just turns out he's going to be a future Hall of Famer and one of the best centers to ever play the game. Which, hey, and it was for like what even was it a burrito, or was it like a Gordito Crunch or something like that?
I don't know.
I can't even remember what it was from Taco Bell, but like that's Nikola Jokic in a nutshell, and he's just a living legend. All the pictures of him when he was a fat, obese kid, probably borderline diabetic.
How Taco Bell doesn't sponsor him is unbelievable.
Yeah, I would just love to just sponsor like all those weird commercials that Mountain Dew makes with Joel Embiid. You're telling me you couldn't make a weird commercial with Jokic?
How does Jokic not have any commercials? Does he have any?
Oh yeah, didn't I send you the one of him in Boban?
Well, okay, U.S. commercials.
Okay.
Serbia is different. I mean, I think every commercial should have Jokic in Serbia, but in the U.S., I don't think he has one. I remember one, the Nuggets made one. And it was him and Jamal.
The Western Union?
Yeah, or the Western Union one. That was funny. But how Jokic doesn't have more commercials? Like where he could easily be in that class of Peyton Manning type of commercials, where it's that dry humor, just that like it works. It works. He'd be fantastic. The one
American
commercial
financing with Nikola Jokic.
right, the one commercial that kills me though every time I see it, I don't know why, is that State Farm one with Rogers, Mahomes, and you have it's their doubles.
Oh,
Drake's
yeah.
in it, and you got
From State Farm.
yeah, you got oh my god, Ant-Man. I can't remember his
Yeah,
real name,
Paul
but
Rudd.
Paul Rudd. He tries to throw the, he's like, "That's my double."
Oh my god, I would love a Jake from State Farm commercial with Nikola Jokic.
Oh yeah,
Can you imagine that?
and it'd be easy to find his double. There's tons
Right,
of
you
guys
could
that
pull
look like Nikola
some
Jokic.
random fat white guy off the street. Well, I can't say fatty because he's not fat, but some dad bod white guy off the street. You could easily do it. There's millions of those guys walking around the country.
I'm sure
right
you
now.
would apply for it.
I would love to. And if Jokic, I'm telling you, if he would like, if I could be his
Well,
main,
you had a chance to talk to him one time.
yeah. Well, at that time he wasn't Jokic though.
Well,
He was
no.
just some weird guy that looked at the bathroom door and like didn't want to walk in, and then looked at me, and I was just like, all right. Little did I know, if in that moment I would have known that that would be my most favorite player of all time, I would have hugged him and said, "Carry me in."
If that happened now, what would you do? If you ran into him, he's just staring out the bathroom door.
I would break the door for him. I'd be like, "Yeah, that is too small. Let me go get the jackhammer and widen the entrance for you. Do you need me to grab you some towels? Do you need fresh water? What do you need, Nikola? I'm telling you, if I could be his cook, his maid, his he probably doesn't have a house, but I'd mow his
I
lawn.
think he does have a house, right?
If I knew where he lived, I'd be outside.
Wasn't there a video of them watching, or he was dancing or something? And
Yes, and like these videos that we see leak out of nowhere of him like dancing or him riding his horse. I'm just like, he's the most mysterious man I've ever
for
known.
those who are listening to the podcast, please go to the YouTube channel to that point and watch what Steven just did.
He fascinates me. I wish we could have a 30 for 30 on Nikola Jokic. What if I told you fattest kid in Serbia would go on to be the best center of all time? I would, yeah. Him and Philip Lindsay. Like Philip Lindsay's gonna be out of here pretty soon, but I wish we could just all hang out together and like talk about Philip's afro, even though the afro that he used to have, and it'd be a great time. He could make a sitcom out of us. But yes, no, I think Jokic has a great chance to win MVP. It would be hilarious if he did.
Yeah.
He probably won't win it, but I don't think we need the validation of him being the MVP to know what we have in him. He's an insane player, and I tweeted it out the other night before we wrapped too. I don't think there's any question that he's going to go down as the best player in Nuggets history.
I think he already is.
Yeah,
and look, I love Melo. I'm not one of those that hates Melo. I love Melo. Melo was my favorite player, a favorite Nuggets player. He was second to LeBron, even when he was in New York. I liked his game. I still like his game. I enjoy watching Portland play and watching Melo out there. But Nikola Jokic is the best Nugget of all time.
Yeah.
Already, it's just there's no player that's ever done what he's doing at his size, let alone any Nuggets player.
Which really sucks for Melo, because like I'm sure there would have been a time if Jokic would have just chosen 16.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like, Jokic, why did you choose 15? Like, obviously he didn't know, because if you think Nikola Jokic knew anything about the Nuggets before he joined the Nuggets, I don't. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. Like it honestly, I forget that he wears 15. It doesn't feel like he wears 15. But whenever I see that number, I'm like, that's gonna be interesting.
I think if you're the Nuggets, the best thing you can do
retire both of them.
Yeah, is do what the Broncos did, like how it was with Tripucka. He was 18, and then now which I think is so stupid how they have it at the stadium, where it's like Tripucka and then
Manning's is the little
like a footnote.
Yeah,
and I'm like, just
do you watch Peyton Places?
I watched the one with Tom Brady, but I think I've seen a few of them, but I don't watch.
Watch the one where he with John Elway, because he talks about that. He's like, why do I have that little space?
It's like a footnote, and I'm like, seriously, the guy that
Yeah.
like breathed life into the franchise, we can't get him his own standing one
Yeah.
that just has his name on it.
You know, the Broncos as a franchise do the right things plenty of times, as far as not on the, not personnel wise, but just with the stadium and stuff like that. They usually do the right things. That's the one wrong thing that they've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the Nuggets, I don't think that 15 will be retired until Jokic
No,
hit, because I don't think, like, if you retire Melo's number while Jokic is still playing,
it's weird.
it gets a little like Melo would have to continue to let him use 15, and then it would be Melo to be like, nah, it's mine. So I think if you're the Nuggets,
So I don't think Melo would care.
I don't think he would, but at the same time, you don't want to run that risk. So I think what you have to do is tell Melo, maybe even make it publicly, we would like to retire number 15 with Carmelo Anthony, but out of respect to Nikola Jokic, who right now, hey, he could even be, especially if he wins MVP, out of respect to Nikola Jokic, who is an MVP winner and the best player on this team, we would like to wait and then retire both later.
Yeah, well, I could see it going that if he continues to wear 15 his whole career, the Nuggets should either have 2 separate 15 jerseys in the Raptors.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I think you
have
do
a 15 jersey and just split it at the top and Jokic Melo on one side.
that would be kind of cool too. But I think you do. I think what you should do is do 2 different jerseys, but 2 different types of jerseys. So Melo's is the blue and yellow, the light blue.
That would be
and
a good
then
idea.
You can make Jokic's maybe the dark or whatever jersey that reminds us of him
Or
the most by the end
when
of
I
his
think
career.
Carmelo, I mean, obviously you could do the powder blue, but I think that dark blue with the yellow
with
cursive
the cursive. That's what I think of all the time too. But yeah, you could do either one, and you have them next to each other. I think you do Melo's first because he was first, and then you do.
And he brought the franchise back to relevance.
Right. I think the first year that Nikola Jokic is not playing for the Denver Nuggets, you retire Melo's jersey. So if Nikola leaves in 5 years to Dallas to play with Luka, or 3 years, whatever, I think you at that first year you retire Melo's, and then when because Melo will be done by then, and then Nikola Jokic, when he retires, then you can retire Jokic's. But I think that's how you do it. Now, if Jokic is playing on the team for his whole career, then at that point I think you wait until, unless you talk to Melo when Melo retires and you say, hey, we would like to retire your number, but we want to make sure that you allow Jokic to wear it as well, so we can retire number 15 as for Jokic later on. And if you do that privately and you make that deal first, then you can do it while Jokic is still a Denver Nugget. But I think you wait until Jokic is gone.
Well, I think, listen, we just saw, I don't know if you saw this, but we saw the Rockets owner, Tillman Fertitta, or whatever his name is, Furtado, whatever that guy's name is.
Tater.
Yeah, Enchilada, whatever his name is. He came out and he said, we're going to retire James Harden's jersey.
Yeah.
And James Harden is still playing. I think, why not do it public? If you're the Denver Nuggets, why not say, you know what, our plan, because it would be one of the biggest disservices and most disrespectful things if this franchise does not recognize Carmelo in some way.
Yeah.
And they kind of already slight him, like in social media, like leaving him off of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, the first time they posted something maybe a couple of weeks ago, that was the first time I think they've posted anything about Melo since he left.
And he deserves that recognition. Like, if you're the Kronk, why not come out and say, you know what, we'd love to retire Melo's jersey. And I guarantee you, Jokic would be like, I'll wear a different number. I'm fine. Like, I don't think
Jokic gives a crap about it.
Jokic would probably walk out there with no number, honestly.
Yeah.
You would just say Jokic on the back. I mean, that's fine. He doesn't care, I don't think. I don't think he really has any, like, maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he has no emotional ties to 15. But eventually, that number has to be retired. And Melo has to be given the respect he's due. Yeah. I get it. It didn't end well. But still, now that time has passed, that is the one player that is responsible for giving the resurgence back to the Nuggets, like Peyton Manning did to the Broncos when Elway retired. You have to give these guys their respect. And Melo put them on the map. He took him to a Western Conference Finals. Could have easily won an NBA final with Melo. He wanted to leave. He gave him what, 8 years, 7, 8 years. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the best Carmelo, the version of Carmelo the league has ever seen.
Yeah.
So
look, look, I love the Nuggets, but they've been very petty when it comes to anything that has to do with Melo. And it's been, as a fan, like, I get some fans like it, whatever, but as a fan of the team, it makes me dislike the team with how disrespectful they are towards Melo. Now I think they're turning a corner, and I think it's more so because I think Melo has kind of turned a corner in a way too. So I think it's a little different now, and obviously, 10 plus years has gone by, but it's just they need to get over it. I mean, there was talks about Melo rejoining the Nuggets a couple years ago.
that's what I was just gonna say. I hope that Melo's last year is with the Denver Nuggets.
I hope so. If he wants to come here next year, I would absolutely. I was advocating for Melo to come to Denver before he joined Portland. I got some pushback on that, but man, I really wish he would have. They could use him. They could use him right now. Like, I really hope that next year, the year after, I don't know how long his contract is with Portland, if it's a 1 year or 2 year.
That's a
But
good question.
I would love for Melo to come back to Denver for 1 more year. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, just has to. I think it has to happen. Like, you have to, would you, if you could swap in Melo for Will Barton? I would
Oh
do
yeah,
that.
I'd do that in a heartbeat. It's not even
I
close.
mean, he's playing so well now. Obviously, Melo's not at the level that he used to be. So yeah, next year he's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, I'd go get him. And because that could be his last year, I would go get him. Especially if you're thinking of, could you imagine if, say you get to the Western Conference Finals, you lose again, right? And all of a sudden the Nuggets start to make moves, like big moves in free agency, because they feel like their window is next year, or is that year. And you also go ahead and sign Carmelo Anthony, and you get to the NBA Finals, and Melo's on the team. That would be amazing. If your window opened and you got to because look, I feel like Nikola Jokic will play in the NBA Finals at some point, and if Melo was on that team in Denver, that'd be amazing. It'd be, full circle. Like it would be incredible. If there's a chance of that happening, you gotta do it. I think it'd be amazing. Yeah. And Melo would give you something. It's not just like, oh, you're doing it because you feel bad for Melo. He's giving you something. He's playing well.
He's still averaging like what is he averaging right now? I mean, I think he's averaging like 12 to 18 points right now it's not like he's a bad player for the Blazers. Like, he's a key figure. And like, listen, the other night when they were playing the Blazers, Melo was obliterating the Nuggets. And I don't know why Portland went away from him in that second half. Let's see, what is he at this year? I'm trying to find his average right now per game. I mean, he's averaging 14 points a game right now. I mean, that's what Gary is averaging. So, I mean, you don't think the Nuggets could use that? So, I agree. And as one of those fans that was obviously, I was definitely upset. I'm not gonna even lie. I was definitely upset when he asked for a trade and wanted out. But I think after a few years, he was like, okay, I want to see this guy succeed. And for him, if there was ever a situation where he could come back and just be on this team and hopefully have his jersey retired, even if it's not winning a championship, but just to have him back for his last year, I think it has to happen. I think fans need to get over it. Stop being. It was when was that? 10 years ago, like you said, that he got traded or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly which year.
10 or 11 years. I mean, get over it. We just got to get over it and move on. Cleveland accepted LeBron back. You think Cleveland have been like, no, you left us, don't come back?
Yeah. And that situation was a whole lot worse too.
Right. Well, and it's a whole lot different too, because LeBron was at the top of his game and he's the best player in the world. But still, I think it has to happen. Hopefully it does someday. But that's going to do it for us today. We thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you had a good time, and hopefully you've learned a lesson to not count out the Nuggets and Jamal Murray anymore. I'm tired of seeing you on Twitter go there and spew your vitriol and your disrespect.
I'm gonna find all your tweets and put them in a a compilation or whatever.
When I tweet during a Nuggets game, that shouldn't be held against me. I experience a wide array of emotions, and a lot of them are very negative. I will admit that. That's why I like to quote tweet a lot of my tweets and call myself a clown. Like, especially the ones that I'm ready for the Nuggets to let me down tonight and rip out my heart, and then they win by 20. I'm like, ha, clown. But one tweet I will not take. Michael Porter Jr. has the worst hands in the NBA by far. Someone needs to teach him how to catch. I don't know who, but it has to happen because he drops so many passes, and it makes me very angry. I get unhealthy levels of angry. I get like Mason Plumlee angry when I see MPJ drop passes. But then he goes and hits a 48-foot jump shot, and I'm like, how can I not?
Now, when we were talking about trading Jamal, I said you have to wait till the trade deadline to see if he can turn it around.
No, I'm not giving you credit for that. Doesn't count.
I also 2 weeks ago came up with a theory.
No.
And it seems like it's true.
No theory. So, no, you don't get to backtrack.
I was right.
No, you were on that train. You got off too early. Just admit it. You got off before you got to the nice scenes of, the nice scenery. You were in the tunnel and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to see those beautiful Neapolitan mountains yet. And so you got off on the wrong stop. And then now you get to see those beautiful
You were right
mountains.
there with me in trading him.
Yeah, I mean, I stepped off many stops ago. So, yeah. I've been wanting to get rid of Jamal, honestly. I would probably still trade Jamal if Bradley Beal was available. I'd probably still do that. But
I don't know.
He's playing really well right now.
I think I think the way he's playing, you have to wait now. And look, Bradley Beal's not available, so it doesn't matter. But
I know.
I think at this point, I think you would have to wait.
Can I just say though, before we go, and it always takes us 87 minutes.
Yeah,
to close,
this is the second time I'm playing this dumbass song.
MPJ, the sequence where he blocks the shot and it goes to Jamal for a dunk. I was just like, it's all coming together. Coming together. This is what we wanted. It's all coming together. Like, MPJ could never play defense.
He's playing great defensively. I think he's been much better.
Great, but he's
well compared to what he was.
It's not painful to watch him.
Yeah, there you go.
It doesn't hurt. Now it's like, could have been better. Before it was like, you're unwatchable. Now it's like, that was rough, but he's doing well. Okay, that'll do it for us. We thank you guys for tuning in and listening. For Brandon Stoll, the Jamal Murray hater on the other side, I'm Stephen Priest Jr., the Jamal Murray supporter. Is behind the glass.
Such a liar.